She'll have to be brave and do as she's told. After all, Clara manages it, and she's younger than Ginny and has no one at all. Ginny shares a bed with Clara. She hopes they will become friends one day. But for now, she's Ginny, all alone. Part 1, 1911 to 1914. Chapter 1. After Haddon, May 1914. 3 years ago, Ginnie Jones had prayed for this, to be walking down the hill towards Burslem. Instead, she had walked up the hill to the gated entrance to Haddon Workhouse, with her mother and father, not knowing how long she would stay there. When she asked the question, she never received an answer. She'd wanted to stay with Mabel, at Auntie Nellie's, but mother and father said there was no room. Besides, she was only a neighbour, not a real auntie. At first she had been anxious, then worried, then frightened, so that she could hardly breathe, and still no answers came. Eventually she had grown used to the loneliness of life, where family and friends were taken away, and plans for the future had no place. Today she walked down the hill, away from the workhouse, with her sister. Today was the beginning of her new life, her after Haddon life. She caught her breath and turned away, as Mabel gave her a sharp glance. "You got a chill coming on our Ginny?" Ginny could only shake her head. If she had spoken at that moment, she would have begged her sister to take her back to Haddon Workhouse Children's Hostel. There had been lots of times during those years when she had longed to leave. But now it was happening, she felt such a fear of the unknown and an unexpected sense of loss. But there had been good times too. She'd had friends to laugh with and to cry with, when it all seemed impossible to bear. But, she reminded herself, friends made in the workhouse were rarely for keeps. They either left or died. She blinked and sniffed, then wiped her nose on the sleeve of her coat, drawing another glance from Mabel. They passed a public house, with tiny windows too dirty to see through. Its dancing horse sign creaked in the early summer breeze. The house standing beside it had a huge chimney stretching towards the sky, as if to compete with the hundreds of huge, belching bottle ovens, casting a pall over the horizon around the 6 towns of the Staffordshire Potteries. She scanned the valley towards Burslem, where she saw the black silhouettes of pottery manufacturers, their bottle ovens spewing soot over people going about their business. She knew that along any of the terraces of houses there would be a pottery manufacturer, a pot bank, as they were known, and a public house on each corner, where hard-earned wages could be spent on payday. Over her arm, Ginny carried a red carpet bag containing all her worldly goods. A spare dress covered a couple of pairs of bloomers given to her by Mary Higgins, who was in charge of Haddon Hostel. Underneath these were her tranquilments, her bits and bobs, the things with the power to make her laugh or cry in an instant, special to her and no one else. She hugged the bag against her side as it bounced off her leg, and tried to think of something to say to Mabel. They walked towards the centre of Burslem, known by some as the mother town of the Potteries, and her eye was drawn to the length of Waterloo Road in front of them. It reminded her of the serpent in Auntie Nellie's Bible, and a conversation she'd had with her father ages ago. The tram lines were backbones, and the people walking by, its scales. Ginny didn't know if serpents had backbones, and when she'd asked father, he had said he didn't know either, but that serpents were like the snakes living out in the country. He also said the tramcars trundled all the way from Hanley, through Cobridge, Burslem and Tunstall to Golden Hill, less than 5 miles in total, and each town was packed with their own pot banks. She'd never been on a tramcar. The family couldn't afford it, and they didn't know anyone in those other places, only Burslem.